Welcome to my channel, Safety Net. Today, we will learn the importance of identifying hazards.
Every accident starts with an unnoticed hazard. I want you to just sit with that for a second. It's kind of chilling, right? But honestly, it's also incredibly empowering. Because if every accident actually starts with a clue, a hidden danger, then we absolutely have the power to play detective and stop disasters before they even happen. So welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to learn how to adopt a true investigative mindset that can, and literally does, save lives every single day.
What we're talking about here is the ultimate proactive safety methodology: hazard identification and risk assessment, or as it's universally known in the industry, HIRA. Understanding HIRA is basically like getting a pair of X-ray glasses for your workplace. It completely transforms how you see your environment, shifting your whole mindset from, reactive panic when things go wrong to proactive, calculated control.
Okay, let's quickly run through our roadmap. We're going to start with the hidden dangers, then move into spotting hazards. After that, we'll cover calculating risk, taking control, and finally, we'll bring it all together with HIRA in action. All right, jumping into Section 1, the hidden dangers. Let's get a quick introduction to what HIRA is all about. So HIRA isn't just some boring compliance checklist you fill out and forget about. It's a highly systematic shield, and it all starts with one foundational definition: a hazard. What is it? Well, a hazard is anything that has the potential to cause harm to people, equipment, property, or the environment. And what's super interesting here is how broad that actually is. A hazard isn't necessarily just a giant pool of water on the floor. It's the potential for harm hiding in that scenario. It could be a loose wire, a heavy box, or some toxic chemical sitting on a shelf.
Moving right along to Section 2, which is Step 1 of the actual process: spotting hazards. It's time to gather some clues. Listen, before we can even think about assessing a risk or putting controls in place, we actually have to open our eyes, look around, and spot these potential dangers that are just hiding in plain sight. To make this easier, we group these clues into 6 common categories. First, physical hazards. Think working at heights, crazy loud noises, or slip hazards. Then we have chemical hazards like toxic gases and solvents, biological hazards, which would be your viruses and mold, ergonomic hazards, these are so common, like heavy lifting or terrible posture at a desk, electrical hazards like exposed wires, and finally psychological hazards like severe workplace stress and fatigue. Honestly, the sheer variety here just goes to show why we need a structured approach, because threats can literally come from anywhere.
So how do we actually track them down? Well, organizations use a few key investigative tools. You've got your routine workplace inspections, job safety analysis, or JSAs, and formal safety audits. But honestly, the real secret weapon here is employee feedback and near-miss reports. The people on the ground doing the work day in and day out, they are your absolute best detectives. Their input is literally the lifeblood of this entire identification process.
All right, Section 3, Step 2, calculating risk. Let's deduce the threat level.
Now that we've gathered all our clues, we hit a really crucial point. We have to understand the absolute difference between a hazard and a risk. Like we just talked about, hazard is the potential for harm, but risk is cold, hard math. It's the likelihood of that harm occurring multiplied by its severity. Actually, scratch that. Let me frame it this way. You could have a crazy severe hazard, but if the likelihood of it actually happening is practically zero, the overall risk might be totally fine to manage. We always have to measure both sides of that equation. Let's see exactly how that math plays out in the real world. Imagine you're doing some work on a roof without any fall protection. The likelihood of an accident? High. The severity? Fatal. Multiply those together, and boom, your risk level is very high. Now compare that to a wet floor in a regular office. The likelihood of a slip is maybe medium, and the severity is usually just a minor injury, so your overall risk level is medium. Then take an exposed electrical cable. High likelihood of someone touching it, and the severity is a serious injury, which leaves us with a high risk level. See how that works? It's a completely objective way to grade different scenarios against each other. And those calculations, they basically drop us into one of 4 risk rating categories: low risk, medium risk, high risk, or extreme risk. Now, you might be wondering, why bother putting them in buckets like this? Simple. It's a triage system. It dictates our urgency. Higher and extreme risks demand absolute drop-everything, immediate action. You don't say, "Oh, I'll fix that very high risk next Tuesday." No way. You fix it right now.
Which brings us to Section 4, Step 3, taking control. Time to neutralize the target.
Now it's time to actually neutralize the threat. And our playbook for this is called the hierarchy of controls.
It's a strict 5-step ranked system. Step 1 is elimination, literally just completely removing the hazard, like getting rid of a broken machine entirely. If we can't do that, we move to Step 2, substitution. That's swapping the hazard for a safer alternative, maybe using water-based paint instead of something toxic. Step 3 is engineering controls, where we physically isolate the hazard away from people, using things like machine guards or ventilation. Step 4 is administrative controls, changing how people work through training or permits. And finally, Step 5 is personal protective equipment, or PPE, like hard hats and safety glasses. The golden rule here? We must always try to hit Step 1 before we work our way down the list.
And that brings me to a massive, massive workplace misconception that we absolutely need to clear up right now. PPE is always the last line of defense, not the first. I repeat, not the first. We only rely on PPE when all those other controls we just talked about, elimination, substitution, engineering, admin, either fail or just aren't quite enough. PPE is literally the final physical barrier between you and the danger. And that's exactly why you never ever start your safety plan just by handing out a bunch of gloves and calling it a day.
All right, Section 5, HIRA in action. Let's look at a practical application.
We've got the theory down, so let's see this detective work come to life in a real scenario, like a typical welding job. We start by identifying the hazard, flying sparks. The calculated risk there? Eye injury. So our control measure is to wear welding goggles and a face shield. What about a fire hazard? The risk is a full-blown fire outbreak. So our control is to clear out flammable materials entirely and keep a fire extinguisher right there. Welding fumes carry the risk of respiratory illness, right? So we control it with proper ventilation and respirators. An electric shock threatens serious injury, so we proactively inspect our cables and use insulated gear. Do you see how perfectly that flows? It's a direct, highly satisfying relationship. Spot the hazard, assess the risk, implement the control. It's just beautifully methodical.
When an organization really commits to this process, the benefits are just immense. First and foremost, HIRA dramatically reduces workplace accidents and injuries, while massively boosting overall employee safety awareness. Of course, it also keeps companies out of trouble by ensuring compliance with legal requirements. But beyond just the compliance and health aspects, it protects company assets, protects your reputation, and drastically reduces downtime and financial loss. At the end of the day, the whole shebang creates a safer, healthier environment that empowers every single person to do their job with confidence.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want you to do me a quick favor. Put on those X-ray detective glasses we talked about at the very beginning, and just take a look around you right now. Look past the familiar routine of your daily environment, and really ask yourself, what unseen hazards are hiding in my workspace right now? Just by asking that one simple question, you've already taken the first, most critical step in HIRA. Keep looking, keep calculating, and stay safe out there.